afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Marvell Allen. This is a very intimate room. I like it. This morning we were in Poly Ballroom East, and it was humongous. And there were almost 150 people there, so I had trouble making out the eyes of the people in the back. Don't think I'll have that problem this afternoon. So welcome to all of you to this session on building organizational influence and what it means to your career. Because this session started a little bit late, I want to make a quick disclaimer. My plan is to cover all my slides, and I do understand that on the website you can get a copy of the slides. Is that correct? Because I have resources there, etc. For this course, though, or this overview, because it's not really a course, I would like you to have paper and pencil available because there is a little exercise I'm going to have you do, and you'll need to be able to write down a couple of things that I couldn't bring in to the session for you today, but they'll be on the slides, so you'll be able to have that information. So just to give you a quick note on that. Okay, so good afternoon. I'm Marvell Allen. How many of you have been in any of my sessions before that I did on emotional intelligence? Last year, year before? Oh, okay, so I've got at least one. Are the rest of you new to this conference? Raise your hand, new? Totally love it. Okay, good. So are you enjoying it so far? Okay. Did you hear Shola for lunch?
Yes.
Boy, oh boy, I was the one doing the cat calling in the front, just so that you know. His message was so simple, and he was so animated, and you could tell that he was genuine and authentic, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about genuineness and authenticity when you think about our ability to influence people. So let me see where I want to start. There's a couple of things I want to make sure you understand. I want to get a quick idea, and this will be by shout out. I don't need to recognize your hand, but if you want to shout it out, I'm going to keep track of who's shouting out what. Why are you here? Why are you here? Make more money. Oh, you mean in this class? Or at UC Berkeley, that's why you're here?
If I can make more money here, that works.
I love it. Okay, focus, focus, focus. All right, why else are we here in this room? I didn't hear you. Professional development. What else? Develop for a team. Yeah.
Real change.
Okay, so if we had a week to do this course, we could talk about the word real. Change is going to happen anyway, but the word real kind of gives a little hiccup when you think about real change and influence. Okay, why else are you here? Expand my knowledge. I love it. Yes? Like self-awareness, maybe? Oh, okay. Okay, all right. So here's why I asked that question. We hear the word or see the word influence, and we think it's going to either make us more money, make us more confident, give me development, bring all these things to bear when we may or may not be quite sure about what we're talking about in terms of influence. Now, no judgment there, because before I figured out what it was and became passionate about it, I didn't know either. And I didn't really see the connection with how it was going to help me professionally. But that's what we're going to talk about today. This is irrespective of your role in the university, are there any managers or supervisors in the room? Okay, great. All right, are there any above supervisor? Might be, say, manager, director, above. Okay, good. And by the way, I want to commend you all for coming to this session. Why? Why am I commending you? Why am I saying good job, glad you're here? Not just to listen to me, because I could do this in a closet without anybody there and be very happy. Okay, so why am I glad you're here? Yeah, you could be doing something else. I mean, there are so many other things that we believe are more important. Why else? Any other reasons? Why am I glad you're here, sir? You're one of the managers. Why am I glad you're here?
Because it means we're emphasizing our development, acknowledging we need to
Yes, yes, yes. Table stakes. Everybody understand poker? That $1,000, that $50,000, that $1 million, like James Bond, gets you in the game. That's your table stakes. That's really all you bring are those initial skills and education. Everything else is above that. Table stakes only get you to the table. So now we're going past that. So bravo, Thomas, for being here with us today. Okay. You know what? I got to commend you also for just being so quick with saying, yeah, I'm here to make more money. Let's know what it is we really want. Let's be clear about it. And there can't be any judgment, because it could very well be that her interpretation of I'm here to make more money is I can't find out why I'm not getting promoted and why, in spite of my skills and my education, I'm not given opportunities to move up. That's all I'm here to make more money could mean to her. The way we judge it could mean something different for us. Then people are going to think, oh, you're in the wrong room. This is not a franchise offer. So why is she here if she wants to make more money? Okay? So you think about what your thoughts are about others and the judgments that we pass on others, even as we influence. And even as we tell ourselves, gosh, I'm just a clerk and, you know, I'm in the mailroom. I can't influence anything. Sure you can. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Love this quote. If profanity had an influence on the flight of the ball, the game of golf would be played far better than it is. Okay? Any golfers in the room beside myself? Thank you very much. Okay? We're frustrated by golf, not just because of our own skill level, but because of the better skill or worse skill of the people that we play with. Okay, we judge ourselves based on them. And if they play worse than we do and get better skills, we are not happy. And we cannot influence them doing well or not unless we either swear a lot or yell at them or I can't believe you hit that ball, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So now, organizationally, we do talk about influence. Quick question for you. How many of you believe you have any influence at all in your work life? Any? Oh, good. Okay, quick shout out. Why do you believe you have that influence? What is it about the influence you believe you have that says, yeah, I have influence? Shout out. Why do you believe you have the influence? Spot at the table at meetings. Acknowledgement from supervisors. Same. Okay, we get to bring our expertise. What else? Yes. I'm genuine in my meetings. You're what? I'm genuine in my meetings. Yes. And guess what? People sit in those meetings and watch you. They're not watching always to see what you do, but they're looking at your eyes. They're watching your body language. They're getting a sense. Does he mean what he says? Does he have my best interest at heart? That's what they're thinking about. No matter what level in the organization, we're all thinking that. Okay? So quickly, we're going to look at these things. I want you to feel comfortable, since the room is small, that you can ask questions as we go. If it's really focused and meaningful on something we're talking about right then, I want to answer it right then, okay? If it's something that you want to wait till the end, we can do that too. But I want you to feel comfortable, and there is a mic that we do need to have go around and Isaac has the mic, because we need to make sure that it's captured on the video. Okay, so we're going to look at how influence strategies can support your career growth, review reasons for using the skill of influencing, go over a few influence styles and discuss the kinds of situations they can be used in most effectively, and then practice using an influence strategy with a little fun exercise that I'm going to give you. And this room is so much better for it than I had this morning, so I'm very, very glad that we've got this intimacy here, which I think it'll work with really well. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at what we mean by the words influence and why it's important. When we think about influence, we generally think of people that are in high positions of authority, wouldn't you say? Who have influence over us or our families, in our neighborhoods, at our churches, mosques, and synagogues, all of those areas. That's what we think about influence. Affecting the beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors of another in some desired direction. The reason it's some desired, because it doesn't have to be yours or theirs, but we're going to go somewhere with that influence, okay? And then to have an effect on somebody that helps to determine that person's actions, behavior, or way of thinking. Influence is not brainwashing. Be clear. This is different. How and why do we influence others? Understanding yourself and the effect or impact you have on others, building a web of influence. The ability to win others to your way of thinking. Be very careful here, because sometimes the perspective is, if I'm a supervisor or if I'm a leader, it's my way because I'm the boss. You don't like it, see you later. Okay? Stereotypically. Leading others to take positive action. By the way, it may not be the action that you deem to be the most important, but for them, it's positive. It's moving us in the direction of something. Be persuasive, appealing to emotional triggers. What do we mean by emotional triggers? What's an example? Positive or negative? Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes, yes, yes. That would be an example of an emotional trigger because of the way he had that conversation with his mother, and quite frankly, even with his father, when he talked about that conversation with his father. But I want you to narrow it down a little bit more. What do we mean emotional triggers? Not just the conversation, but what are examples of emotional triggers? All of us have them.
If you tap into something somebody cares about, they're gonna be more engaged. They're gonna be more willing to, communicate and get involved.
Okay, so they're going to be more willing to communicate and get involved if it's something they care about. So one emotional trigger can be happiness, passion. What else? And Thomas, you have your hand up.
Memory or shared experience.
Shared experiences, anger, frustration. These are all emotional triggers. Remember, the trigger part is when it happens, it triggers you in some direction. That's what we're talking about. And I love that Shola also brought up about trust, because the relationship between influence and trust is huge. I need to be able to trust that you, Thomas, with me as your employee, have my best interest at heart. I need to be able to trust that. Then I'm going to be more likely to hear you out and let you, quote unquote, influence me in the direction that you think would be best for the project, for our department, for our team, blah, blah, blah. Everybody with me on that? If I don't trust Thomas, and Thomas uses one of the 9 influencing styles that we'll talk about today, which is coercion to get me to do what he wants, I'm still not going to trust him, but he's coercing me into doing what he wants me to do because he has positional power over me. Everybody understand? We get frustrated with our bosses. I can't believe they wanted me to do that. We go round and round. Well, if they have positional power, they're going to use it, whether you like it or not. If they're flexible in their influence styles, if they're flexible, they're going to find out the things that appeal to you more before they take it upon themselves to coerce you. There might be other things that appeal to you that are going to get you to go their direction. Are you with me? Okay? I want you to think about those times when you may have had a boss that coerced you. That also in his or her team had 150% turnover because people couldn't work with them. They were toxic. They weren't fair. They weren't trustworthy. They didn't care enough about their teams. Okay? I also want you to look at this last bullet. To be able to change people's minds without resentment. What's that mean? Change people's minds without resentment.
It's like you're interacting, and in the moment you're like, yeah, and then you leave and you're like, why didn't I say that, or why didn't I think about that, or...
Yeah. one of the biggest challenges that we have is because our manager may have positional power over us, we'll agree in the moment and then we're resentful afterward and we go back and we talk about them in the bathroom or at the water cooler, or we go out to Starbucks, which is better because then no one overhears us. Although everybody in your office is at Starbucks at that time, okay? Everybody overhears you. So it's important that you can be sensitive, whether you have that positional power or not. Thank you, Thomas, for letting me use you as an example. I'll use several of you as an example today. But you want to be careful. You want them to feel good about the fact that you influenced them in the direction that everyone in the team needed to go. And then lastly on this, you have to reinforce the commitment around whatever it was that you had to change people's minds on. Okay, we had a great example this morning with the kind of work that you all do. And I'm going to ask that question, what do you guys do in terms of your work? So that we can find out then what might be a best way for you to influence. Or, by the way, it's never just our direct reports that we have to influence. We have to influence across the university, okay? And having been an alumnus at UC Berkeley just a day or two before many of you were born, I understand the importance of, even when we had to influence our teams here at school, when we had to influence our professors and the TAs. And I remember being influenced as a TA by some of the students that I had to work with. So it's not always an easy juggle, okay? Okay, so I want to talk a little bit, I don't know how many of you have seen this or know Stephen Covey's work around the circle of influence and the circle of concern. Your circle of influence includes those things you can affect directly. And your circle of concern includes all the things that you care about. So look at this one here. I wonder if this little light works. Oh, I'm not so good with technology, and the only reason I mention it at times is because when people who are into technology try to influence me, I shut down, 100%. So, and my partner, my business partner, gets it. He's the one that has to deal with all that stuff. I don't have to deal with it. This circle of influence here, notice how big it is compared with the circle of concern. And then on this one, look at how small that circle of influence is compared to this one, the circle of concern. So can somebody tell me, so what? What does this mean? Why do I care that my circle of influence is larger here? What's that mean?
As large as the influence is, they're not fully caring about what's around them.
I haven't heard that before. We're going to go, hold that thought. We may go in a different direction. Any others of you, what's good or bad or indifferent about the fact that my circle of influence is greater there? No, because I'm actually doing the influencing. It's more out, okay? But it's huge, is it not? So I saw another hand. Yes? Yes. So in this particular case, I affect directly the things that even though I care about them. But in this case, with the circle of influence, I'm having the ability to influence more. It doesn't mean that I care less, but I can control what I influence. On the other one, if my circle of concern, and I think it came up this morning, if I'm so worried about the environment and so worried about recycling and so worried about the fact that my team and I have not had a raise in the last 45 years, I have no influence left, no opportunity to affect any change. Okay, are you with me? So what I want you to think about is, to what extent do you have things in your circle of concern? No judgment now. That doesn't mean you stop caring about your kids, your husband, wife, significant other, or the 2.5 dogs that you may have. It's not what I'm talking about. You still have to care about them. But to what extent do you create whatever balance you need in order to have that circle of influence be larger? Because we want to influence, whether it's at home, in our personal lives, other things that we do, and also at work. Those things that I care about, if I'm overly caring about everything in my life, my circle of influence is smaller. Does that make sense? And I may need sometimes my circle of influence to be larger. It doesn't mean that I'm not taking care of the things that I'm concerned about. I have to be able to do both. So example, in my coaching and consulting practice right now, I made the determination, because of the way I was raised and my sense of wanting to give back, that I would do pro bono work for 3 organizations that I care about their mission. So they're part of my circle of concern. These are the things that I care about. But I had to have a balance between the pro bono work I was doing for them and my ability to still have a successful business. Does that make sense? So my circle of influence is huge, even as I have created the right amount of time for me to do my pro bono work, where I work with 3 organizations that work in education. One is the East Bay College Fund, which raises money for underserved kids to go to college. The second one is First Graduate, which is in San Francisco. These kids are the first in their families usually to go to college, and First Graduate works with them from 6th grade until they graduate high school going into college, okay? Usually 10 years. And then the third one is the East Oakland Youth Development Corps. All of them have a similar message. To what extent can I use my gifts and talents in support of them, and at a young age, creating that influencing opportunity over the things they may choose, okay? Now, I had to get real clear. I could spend 24/7 being involved in my circle of concern, in which case I probably wouldn't be here, because I'd have to go to work at my second favorite place, which is like a Home Depot or a Lowe's, where I can work in the garden and, you know, give people advice. Oh, are you looking for this? Sir, come on over. Let me just show you where you're. That's my dream job whenever I stop doing the other things that I love, okay? But I had to balance that, and I want you to consider that it's never just about, I got to make sure I do that report because my boss is, rah, rah, rah. It can't just be that. Everybody understand? Comfort with it, even though you understand. Comfort. You don't have to like it, but I want you to be able to create choices for yourself when you look at this. Okay. So let's talk about these 9 strategies that I'm going to bring to your attention. First of all, are any of you familiar with Korn Ferry, which just a year or 2 ago bought Hay Group? Korn Ferry and Hay Group are management consultants. Korn Ferry is well known for their executive recruitment strategy. They're usually on retainer for some of the largest companies to recruit executives. And Korn Ferry and Hay Group merged together. I'm certified in a couple or 3 of Korn Ferry leadership assessments. And many years ago, I started using this influence assessment, which creates 9 or talks about 9 different where am I? Influence assessments. I got it. The reason I wanted to bring this to you, even though you cannot right this moment, take the assessment that these 9 styles will reveal. It's an online assessment, not quite sure what the cost is. It's somewhere between 20 and 30 bucks. After you take it, it gives you a report and tells you where you are in terms of your own style for influencing with these 9. Bless you. And then it gives you tools and tips on how to get better at any of them if you would like or you need to. Here's the thing that I always tell my clients and I tell others. You really want not to be excellent in any of these by itself. You want to be able to flex to other styles. So for example, when I show you a little 2-line sentence that will tell you about each one of these, give you a little bit of a definition, I'm going to leave the slide up long enough for you to take a look at it and then think to yourself, where am I really? When I talk to people or I do things, where am I? Which one of these is more me? Because you don't have the assessment right now to take. If we had a day-long course, I would have had you take that online assessment in advance. You bring your reports to the session, and then we talk about it. And I have several exercises that you can use for it. But right now, I want you to just look at these 9. Yes, please.
So I understand what you're saying about the flex style, and I may want to postpone this question until later, but is it coercion? Like, I don't think about it. I mean, it's a short-term gain.
Yes. And therein lies the value.
Okay. But you're going to burn yourself later.
Of course. Who cares about that in the short term? So glad you brought that up, because part of the challenge that we face with a style that we may have is either we overdo it or we underdo it. That's one. Two, we also face the judgment issues of others around that style, okay? And with coercion, it's still one of the 9. We all know people, everyone should raise their hand. I know someone who has coercion as one of their styles to either get me or anybody else to do what they want. Guess what? Starting and stopping with our parents. Come on now. And if you're a parent, you coerce your kids into doing what you want to do. You can call it something different. I'm the parent, you're the child. It's still coercion. Okay? So to your point, I'll be right with you. To your point, there is a short-term gain, but there are times when coercion is good. Okay? Just like greed, it's good sometimes. If it's overused, you've got 250% turnover in your team. Okay? Yes? About what? Yeah. Yes. And sometimes it's do as I say and not do as I do, that kind of thing. But I think since we're looking at it from an organizational standpoint, I want you to be comfortable that whether we like it or not, there are going to be people who use coercion. Okay? And one of the biggest reasons why they use coercion, because they can. It's a force thing, but you know, a lot of people are not comfortable with force. They're not comfortable with the disruptive quality of it. They're not comfortable with the conflict that it may cause. They're not, you know. But it is one of the styles. I have yet to see anyone who comes up with coercion as their number 1. They won't take this. Rather than to have it, they wouldn't take it because they'd know where they'd be. I'm not taking it. I don't want any questions, okay? So don't ask, all right? That's where they'd go. But to your point, this whole thing around flexing, you have to put in the sweat equity to understand other people's styles, okay? So let's go a little bit more on what these are. And I've got 2 slides here, and I'm going to keep them up enough for you to first just look at these and get a sense of where you are in both, and then you're going to make a quick note, you know, I think I'm a little closer to A and B, okay? So, empowerment. Making others feel valued by involving them in decision-making and giving them recognition. This is a huge one if you are sincere, authentic, and have great principles, okay? Don't waste your time or their time if this ain't where your head's at, because they're going to see through it if it's phony. So think about yourself. Second, interpersonal awareness, identifying other people's concerns and positioning your ideas to address these concerns. Again, you have to be authentic. You need to be sincere. There has to be some transparency here for you to be able to say, you know what, I'm kind of in the head of where Susie or Bob is. I totally get it. You may also say, they've brought up other things before and I sometimes shut them down. Or it wasn't expedient to give them an opportunity, okay? Third one, bargaining. A lot of people don't like the bargaining influence style, but I got to tell you, there are times when it's a nifty thing to have in your back pocket. And again, that sincerity and that authenticity becomes important. Gaining support by negotiating a mutually satisfactory outcome. It's not always, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. That is not always as robust, if I can say it that way. Exchanging favors. People don't like that because they think it's always negative or punitive. Go a different place because you can. And then sharing resources or making concessions. It is okay to acquiesce at times. It's okay. Who's going to shoot you down for that? No one. And guess what? Sometimes when you acquiesce, and you need to be patient about it, your ego does not need to be in the way, and you need to be comfortable that it's not going to be in the way. Okay? Relationship building. Taking the time, underline that when you get your slides, to get to know others personally, maintaining friendly communications so that others will be inclined to support your ideas in the future. Remember, influence is all about, will you be inclined to do so later? I'm not looking for instant gratification. I can be patient. You may come to me with something that I hadn't thought of, and therefore I don't have to come to you to beg that opportunity. I don't have to. Does that make sense? Okay? This is huge. Now, and we'll talk a little bit later about stereotypes. So here's the other 5. Organizational awareness. Identifying the key people in the organization and getting their support and knowing who the key influences are. How many of you have been here more than 10 years? How many of you have been here 1 to 5? Okay, ooh, that 1 to 5 is good. Okay, so, and I'm assuming those of you who have been here 1 to 5 came from someplace else, and it may not have been public academia. Is that correct? Okay, so therefore, another show of hands. How many of you came from somewhere else and it was not academia? Okay, huge group. So let's just talk 20 or 30 seconds about the culture shock you had when you came to the university. Okay? Everybody with me? That's why I'm getting the chuckles. What kind of place is this? It's more beautiful than the farm. Sorry for those of you who went to Stanford, we will forgive you. Okay? Berkeley's beautiful. I used to just walk everywhere, hug the trees. Yes, we did that back in those days. And just look at how beautiful this campus was and still is. But it is not Silicon Valley. Okay? And if you came from a startup or a technology culture and then you plop down in the middle of this different planet, okay, if I have to call it that, all of a sudden you're thinking some of the skills you had for being adept and to be really successful, they don't work in a place like this. Okay? So your ability to understand your organization is absolutely key to your survival, and it is key to you being successful. You can't bitch, moan, and groan about it if you've already been here 5 years, because that's what you should have done in year 1. And if you didn't, shame on you. Now, if you did in year 1, and you did it in year 2, and you did it in year 3, 4, and 5, then it's time, and maybe that's why you're here. Let me just see if there's something else I can do so I can be more successful and happier at work. Okay, so I need you to consider organizational awareness, not just who the key influencers are, but how the heck does your organization work? How can you be successful? It's a different world. Beautiful one, but different. Common vision, showing how your ideas support the organization's broader goals. I will tell you that I absolutely loved Chancellor Chris' comments this morning. I wrote down all 5 of her commitments that she wants to work on. I wrote them all down. Why? Because it's important that we all, whether we're alumnus or staff, students, faculty, think about what are the commitments that we should be making in terms of our organization. If we can't make those commitments, no judgment, then we move on. Okay? We just move on. But I think in this case, your understanding where that common vision intersects creates the opportunity for you to be comfortable in using that as one of your influence styles. Everybody with me? But you have to put in the sweat equity on all of these. You have to know where you are and get an idea of where other people are. You don't have to guess. You'll get to know people and you'll find out where they are, okay? This is particularly important when she talked about scarcity of resources. You know, when we have an abundance of resources, we act differently, we treat people differently than when we have scarcity. When we have scarcity, it is dog eat dog, cat eat cat, for those of you who are not dog people. I'm a cat person, so, you know, we go there because our belief sometimes is that the other organizations, the other departments get more than we have. And why is that? Well, one of the reasons is you have no idea why they get what they get because you haven't done any research. You don't know where your organization may be in the hierarchy of what's important in UC as a whole. So there's no way for you to find that out unless you get a sense what's important. And you got a great sense today. Shame on you if you're not using that information that Chancellor Chris gave you today to increase your influencing skills. Shame on you. Okay? Next, impact management. This surprised people because this is an influencing style that gets to your visual learners, that gets to people who want the impact. They want a wow presentation. They want you to be confident in how you stand before them and give them information. They want to see credibility. They want to see competence. They want to see support for whatever those ideas are. So this impact management, choosing the most interesting, memorable, or dramatic way to present ideas in order to gain support. This cannot start with just the PowerPoint, for example. You've got to do some sweat equity work, just like, and I'll tell you a movie that makes me think about impact management, even though they really didn't use a presentation. I want to say it was an American president with Annette Bening and Michael Douglas. Am I right? Yes. Most of the movie, you got to follow her with how she was gaining support. She was a lobbyist-like, and she was gaining support little at a time, incrementally, for some big bill that they were trying to either not pass or pass. This impact management was how she chose to talk to this group of folks, as opposed to how she chose to talk to this group, as opposed to the people that were right in her office. Do you remember that, for those of you who have seen that movie? Great, one of the best movies I loved. It's such a great little love story. I like them both. And it was also good about the dynamics of influence as far as I'm concerned. It had a lot of those components. And this impact management is, how do I impact others for them to see my way? I don't need their vote yet. I need them to think about being able to support. Does that make sense? You with me? Okay. Logical persuasion. This was the stereotype that came up this morning, which I really, really liked. Using logical reasons, expertise, or data to convince and persuade others. So how many of you like Excel spreadsheets? Okay. I'm done. I'm done. I know. That's very scary. Okay. So here's the biggest challenge. We talked about stereotypes this morning. For those people that are in accounting, finance, et cetera, what are the stereotypes about those people? One. Boring. What else? Say it again. Did I hear uptight? Yes. What else? Stereotypes. What else? Yes, they will use numbers and data, and hold that thought, sir. They'll use numbers and data to try and influence others. What else do we know about those types? What else do we stereotype about those types? Analytical. What else? Unfeeling, rigid. How about this one? Head down. Blinders on. There's no need to look up. My numbers are here. Numbers don't lie. Thank you. Numbers don't lie. They can't be manipulated, but the stereotype of this person that I'm talking about will never talk about manipulating the numbers. Are you kidding me? Sacrilegious. Right there. Okay? Others will talk about manipulating the numbers. They're here. But not the person who is using logical persuasion. What's the biggest challenge since we've got our stereotype going now, and how many of you are in this field, by the way? Because we really want to nurture and support you. We do. We really do. Notice I said it's not my forte. So those of you who need to convince me of things or influence me need to get real clear about what my number one is and work from there. On the flip side, I need to at least respect where the logical persuasion influencing style may come from, and whether I like it or not, I gotta learn a little bit to kind of support them trying to influence me. I can't just say I hate Excel spreadsheets, although I do. My partner loves them, and his understanding that it's not my style, he has to influence me from a different perspective to get me to understand it. Everybody with me? My husband the same way. Well, common sense will tell you that the way you put this mechanical piece together, that's when I walk out of the room. Because common sense does not tell me how to read a drawing for a model train or a model airplane. Common sense tells me none of that. And I have no patience for it either.
Well, I think that most people in the world are going to be using combinations of these as opposed to singular.
Yes. Yes, and Ellen said people are going to be, generally speaking, using combinations of these in the real world. But you would be surprised how many will ignore everything else that's up there except the one that makes them feel most comfortable. So, our logical persuasion person. We did have one this morning who was so happy to be my guinea pig when I talked about the things we needed to do in support of her, and she was definitely a numbers person, okay? What one thing do you think she said she needed to do in order to be successful in her influencing style? By the way, she was embedded in logical persuasion. What did she need to do? To influence. Yes. Teacher's pet, absolutely. Why? Let's look at the relationship building again. Why? Sometimes they do. When we hear numbers, sometimes we shut down.
They're more likely to listen if you have a relationship.
So what of these do you think is my top? Yeah, interpersonal awareness is very close to my top, which is relationship building, okay? Even before the person today said, well, you know, the numbers don't lie. Didn't one of you say that? The numbers don't lie. I don't care if they lie or not. I'm not interested in the numbers. I don't care. Even if you're telling me, you know, if we don't cut this program and that program and that program, we're going to go bankrupt. I want to talk about what we're going to do after we go bankrupt. I don't care about the fact that if we don't cut these programs, we're going to go bankrupt. Everybody with me? Exaggerating to make a point. Give me another reason to engage with you on the fact that the numbers don't lie. Who might be my creative person to say, okay, the numbers don't lie, we could potentially go bankrupt. Which one of these might be the one that would say, but there might be some creative things we could do? I think one of you mentioned that earlier. Who might that person be? Little tougher for bargaining because a lot of people think that's a wishy-washy, not kind of real thing. The interpersonal awareness might be one because they could have a little bit better balance on logic, non-emotion, and that empathetic view that I might need from the relationship building. Okay? In real life, obviously, I'm not going to not care about whether we go bankrupt or not, if you look at that example. But the reality is I'm not going to be happy with my logical persuasion person who's just feels they've done their job by telling me the numbers are right. Because I don't care. Yes?
There's this great quote in Hidden Figures with, I forget the name of the director, someone said, look beyond the numbers.
Yes, and I will tell you, that mathematician, and again, a stereotype about all mathematicians, the reality is they have a heartbeat. They laugh. They have families. They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like we do. The reality is, a couple of them had to learn how to flex their styles with the others. Set aside the fact that it took place in the 1960s when I was stunned. That movie just shocked me. A, we didn't realize there were black mathematician women that were anywhere. Okay? B, wow, they had important jobs. And C, man, they had to really flex all their styles in order, A, to be heard in spite of the bigotry at the time, and then B, to be successful. So nothing's changed now from the standpoint of us having to flex with those styles. Okay? So now your little exercise. Am I good on time? What happens when we're having fun? I'm going to go back. Let me go back to this one. Take another quick look. I'll ask you when you're ready. If there's one here that you think is one of yours, that you believe you're probably closest to. Everybody ready? And then on this page, if there's one, there could be two on the other page or two here, but I just want you to choose two. No, you don't have to choose one from each page. I just need you to choose two from the 9. Has anyone got coercion on their list? Not anymore. Are you afraid, Thomas, I'm going to get in touch with your supervisor? I'm going to call your supervisor and your team. And then I'll call your family and let them know too. Watch out for you. Okay, ready to move on? I want you to hold that thought because I'm going to give you an exercise. What 2 styles I just mentioned are you closest to moving forward? Who can you reach out to for feedback on your style? So these 2 questions, these number 2 and number 3, is what I want you to think about. If there's no one in your immediate circle in your office or in your department, or you have other people across campus that you're close to, that you trust, that they're going to give you good, honest feedback that you will listen to, then that's number 2. Who can you reach out to find out a little bit of their perspective on your style? And give them this information. You can pull it off the website and say, hey, well, I kind of think I'm blah, blah, blah. Here are the reasons why I think I'm more logical persuasion, or here are the reasons why I think I'm more blah, blah. But I noticed over the last 2 or 3 times trying to get my numbers across, people ignored me, they laughed at me, they bullied me, like Shola said earlier, and I'm not getting the influence, I'm not getting people to take me seriously. Work with that person, not that they're your expert, but that they're going to give you a little bit more information about how they believe you show up relative to influence. If you get frustrated and fly off the handle, well, that's another area around the emotional intelligence, for those of you who went to that session, that you need to pay attention to. Self-awareness is your key there. Okay? And then this last one, how can you enhance your impact within your current team or department? I would venture to say that all of us, even when I was working in organizations, I spent a little over 8 years in the Marriott organization as a director level in the field, so I had direct reports. I worked at the Golden Gate Bridge, that was many hundreds of years ago, but my last corporate position before I went back into my own practice was at the Federal Reserve Bank in San Francisco. Okay, all of you know the Fed. In that place, I had a regular rank and file position. I chose not to go into a leadership position. I didn't care. I wanted the influence over learning and development, coaching, and organizational learning for the people that were there. And my reach was all the way up to the highest ranks in the organization, supporting them with how they could be better leaders and managers for their teams. But I had to understand everybody's style and what motivated them to go the direction I was making a recommendation for. Okay? This last one, how can you enhance your impact within your team or your department? I just want you to think about it. You don't even have to want to do it. But I need you to think about the question. You may decide, you know, I really want to get promoted into another team or blah, blah. To what extent are you demonstrating your ability to be savvy around influencing skills, communication, knowing how and when to manage conflict? Conflict is a good thing. It's not a negative. When we squelch it, it's a negative. Because oftentimes creative ideas come out when you have conflict. People feel comfortable that you'll at least listen to them even though the whole group doesn't decide they're going to go that direction. Everybody with me? Okay. Then, these are some of the factors that I like people to consider when they choose an influence style. You got to think about the personality and the communication preferences of the individual that you're attempting to influence. Also, be sensitive to how they receive you. So if it's a manager like Thomas and he's used to doing his email, checking his phone, sending messages, texts while you're in the room with him, ask for the opportunity, can we meet when we can just have some focused one-on-one? Move him out of his style when you know there's things you may need to be influencing on. Say why. I just need you focused, even if it's only for 30 minutes to do blah, blah, or 15 if that's all you have. Make sure you practice ahead of time how you're going to give him the information so he doesn't sabotage your ability to give him what he needs, even if it means sending things to him in advance so he doesn't ask all the why questions when you're not prepared to answer them. And then shame on you if you're not prepared to answer them. Because part of this influence discussion is your ability to be prepared to influence. Okay? Think about your own personality skill and communication preferences. If you get nervous and talk too fast, you need to practice. If you get nervous, talk too fast, and are not prepared to answer the other person's questions, you need to do it in front of someone else so that you can practice, so that you look credible, so that you're comfortable, so that you don't fly off the handle and, you get tongue-tied and then you look like you didn't even prepare for this. Thomas should not give you the time of day if that's the case. Okay? Thank you, Thomas. All right. Questions to ask, which are on the slides. Are you trying to influence one person or a group? Be clear. Be prepared. If you think you're going in with Thomas, you go in with Thomas and look around the room and there's 15 other people around the table. And Thomas says to you, oh, I hope you don't mind, Ellen, but I took the liberty of inviting my colleagues because I think you have something good to say and I want them to hear it. So before you faint, you thank Thomas, okay? You thank him, and then you dive in. So you should prepare for whatever it is you need so you look credible. By the way, you do it with credibility, authenticity, and you are clear that you can stand there and give the information they need. You're an expert. What is your relationship to them? Are you more powerful, at the same level, or less powerful? This came up today with how difficult it is for let's say this whole group of women here in the front. We all worked together, and then Alicia became our boss. Think she's going to have issues with influence? She's going to have some issues with us trying to influence her, because at this moment, she's in the ranks with the Thomases of the world, and we can't trust, at least we think we can't, that she has our best interest at heart. We may not give her any more information like before. It's go out after work for a beer and, let's go shopping, go to the spa. Not anymore. She's in league with Thomas, and we don't know if we can trust her to have our best interest at heart. So if she's smart, what's she going to be thinking and doing? What's she going to be doing? She's building relationships. What else? By the way, she already has a relationship with us. But now, that's right. This is different. It's a huge 360, quite frankly. Okay? She already knows how well we do our work or don't do our work. Oh, my goodness. She knows I'm a slacker. What do I do now? Okay? My responsibility to show up differently for Alicia, Alicia's responsibility to give us all an opportunity so that we can build, because she may already know how we influence. And we need to be clear about what supports her and do that. That's what some of these questions are about. And then this last one, how capable? Not a judgment question. Why'd they pick her instead of me to be the leader? It's not a judgment question. How knowledgeable are they? Are they experienced or inexperienced? And what are their needs and issues? She may not have ever been a supervisor before, and we may need to support her. But how are we going to do that and still get the influencing done the way we need? Okay? Other questions, think about your context. What do you know about their attitude priorities? These are all good questions for you to ask in preparation for influencing that you may have to do over a short or a long period of time. Okay, they just give you a little framework. And then remember, those of you who went to the emotional intelligent one, successful influencers communicate their feelings to others, recognize the emotions of others, and can control their own emotions. Okay, so in that other example, if Alicia used to be a hothead, she's got to work on that because we already know she's a hothead. So she's got to work on engaging her entire new team now, essentially a new team, in order to manage. Self-awareness, self-management, all of these things are going to be important when we think about how we're going to influence in the future. The relevant points that we went over today, progressively move people toward accepting your ideas. Guess what? It's okay to back off if someone else comes up with an idea. You know, I hadn't even thought of that. Then you can back away very comfortably. You know what, Alicia? Such a great point that you brought up. Let's strategize, all of us, about how we're going to influence Thomas and his team, because my direction was not quite, Thomas probably may not have bought it. So now what can we do together, collectively, to influence him? We progressively move toward, or given the opportunity, we move progressively towards someone else's idea. Everybody with me? By the way, let me just say this. I understand the real world. I think I've probably been in the work world maybe a day or two longer than some of you. But I know that there's times I don't care about influencing anybody. Get my work done and get out, particularly if I've had some issues, let's say, or it's a toxic environment like we heard talked about earlier. We don't care. Life is short and then you die. We make other choices. Okay? I'm real clear. But on the flip side, sometimes there's joy and euphoria when you can get to some of these places without the trauma and the drama and the grief that we oftentimes have to deal with in our workplaces. But you have to put in a little more sweat equity for it. Okay? I put some resources up for you. I'm an info-nympho, so I always have resources. I do research to find the best things that I want to give in the moment for people. So this one on 5 steps to increase your influence. Influence versus persuasion. There's a critical distinction for leaders. 7 habits of highly effective people, that's Stephen Covey. And I abbreviated all these. These are not like you would find in an annotated bibliography for a PhD thesis. Okay? And then influencing strategies exercise. That's the link that'll take you right to that if you want to take it on your own. Thank you very, very much, everyone. Any other questions that I did not answer that is burning for you? Anyone? Did you get a tidbit or two that you could use? That's actually more important for me. At least one tidbit that you could use? Okay, great. And thank you for filling out the evaluations, which you'll give to Isaac on the way out. Enjoy the rest of your day.